So sometimes we're in, relationships, whether it's childhood experiences or friendships or business partners where we're not allowed to speak out and speak up. Spirit saying, where are you bound and gagged, right? You're stuck somewhere, bound, like you're bound to someone, right? Connected to someone that won't let you speak your truth.
Hello, and welcome to the Constance Messmer Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about your throat chakra. Predominantly, it has to do with communication. Its location actually is the throat, but also addresses your mouth and extends to your ears. The spiraling chakra at the throat chakra addresses this whole area of your being. I'm really excited to share with you what I know. Your throat chakra has to do with speaking your truth, listening, and trust issues. If when you heard me say speaking your truth, it made you take pause, well done you. A healthy throat chakra is about speaking your truth. And so, as you can imagine, when you don't speak your truth, you are denying that power of your voice. And so it can disrupt the energy of your throat chakra when you don't say what you mean. This also is the energy of listening and deeply listening, so that there is comprehension. Therefore, you are probably not surprised, but maybe you were, that this is also where you store trust issues. There is no trust if there is lack of communication or hiding out or not speaking your truth or not really listening. This is where troubles can arise, especially in regards to trust issues. Physically, the throat chakra affects the energy to your throat, your vocal cords, your thyroid, your parathyroid, also your hormones, your esophagus, your trachea, your neck vertebrae, your mouth, your teeth, your gums, your ears, and also psychic hearing. Per our conversations on ClairAudience in an earlier episode, you realize that psychic hearing can occur on the inside, internally, in your thoughts, in your head, or externally as sounds outside of your head in the third dimension. And those psychic sounds might be audible by only you, or also could be audible by other people in the room. But all psychic hearing is registered on the ear, whether it's the physical outer experience or the inner ear. Because the throat chakra also addresses the mouth when it addresses communication, it also addresses clairgustance, psychic taste, the ability of your inner sense to use taste as a way of communication. And so perhaps a taste might appear in your mouth, and it is here at the throat chakra that is affected by clairgustance. Imbalances to your throat chakra can present as thyroid or hormone imbalances. Believe it or not, scoliosis, because we can get literally bent out of shape from speaking our truth or not speaking our truth. And this could be previous incarnation occurrences that then are brought into this lifetime. Also, laryngitis can be affected by an imbalance in the throat chakra. Of course, throat box problems, sore throat cancer, neck and vertebrae problems, ear disorders, jaw issues, TMJ, mouth, teeth, and gum problems, and hearing problems. When anyone comes to me presenting with these issues, I will definitely work on their throat chakra and work to bring it back to balance, sustained balance. Imbalance can also bring about frustrated communication. And when I find held stress that runs through the jawline and the sinuses, I will most definitely work on the throat chakra. This is also where energy of conflict and lack of trust may be stored. And there could be a depression of expression. And when that happens, the depression of expression, which I find in relational issues, sometimes when people present with relationship imbalances, trauma, or troubles, I also not only treat the throat chakra because usually they've been held in place or kept in check, but I also, if it's extended to depression because they're not really speaking their truth, and it is that depression of expression, then I'll look also to stored energy in the hamstrings and the legs. I think I told you before, the hamstrings are where I often find depression stored, right? Sometimes it's because they're not able to run away. They can't leave. They don't feel the strength to move in whatever way possible in their life that maybe needs to happen. So sometimes depression I find stored in the hamstrings. So these are what presents often when people come in with imbalances with the throat chakra. Sometimes in healing sessions, when I'm looking at past life issues and I come across a real energetic disturbance in the throat chakra, you would not be surprised that the stories that come up are experiences where, and this is not for the faint of heart, where the head has been separated from the body. Oftentimes there might be an experience with a guillotine or something horrific like that. It could be a lifetime of hanging, where there was a hanging that occurred. That's how they passed, and so the energy is cut off there, or strangulation. These obviously, right, in past lives that follow these people into this life, impairs the throat chakra, and then it's an area still calling for healing. So sometimes there's a dissociative tendency where they are kind of, their mind is, or their head is separated from their body kind of feeling, or they cannot connect their heart and head because there's this disconnect right at the throat chakra. So sometimes when I'm doing the work of energy healing, I might put my hands not only on their throat chakra, front and back, never touching the neck. All of us Reiki practitioners know that. But maybe I might also put one hand on their brow chakra, on their forehead, and another hand on their heart to help run the energy between, to help heal the throat chakra. Sometimes also, too, there's a disconnect if there's a trauma in the current life, maybe childhood neglect or physical, sexual, emotional, mental abuse. And so the dissociative tendency comes up there, where they're just really separate from their body. Their head is separate from their body. And in those situations, I'm always drawn to the throat chakra to bring about balance. I feel compelled to mention sometimes when I've done healing work on people, or people that have gone through abuse and neglect in their life, sometimes they're unable to cry. And I find this is often because there is that disconnect between the body and the mind. So because their body had to experience some horrors, their mind didn't want to face it or wrap their head around it. And so that whole thing of, disconnection or dissociation, they swallowed their tears, right? Or they held back their tears and their emotions and their ability to maybe even scream or speak of the injustices that were occurring. So all of these two stifle the throat chakra. So, aside from the past life or early life experiences that can mess up the throat chakra, what else can? When people lie in action and deed, even if it's pretending that everything is okay when it's not, this will mess up the energy of the throat chakra. If it goes on for a while, it leaves you exhausted. You're trying to appease others or make sure everything else is fine when you're pretending. And in essence, you abandon yourself and you betray yourself. And so this chakra is definitely affected. So it's important to tell your truth. It's really important. And when you tell your truth to others, that becomes a real honest connection, right? So not only are you speaking your truth and you're expressing yourself, you're recognizing the importance of expressing your content and your discontent in life. So that even though it might be difficult and even though you might be shaking and even though you might have your voice quaking, it's important to find a way to speak from your heart, your discontent, so that things could be brought back to balance, better understood, and it could be a more peaceful and peaceable and honest relationship. And of course, when these are difficult or you think, oh, that's impossible, I can't do that with my mate or whomever it is that you might have difficulty expressing your truth to, then I would have to ask you or invite you to look deeper as to why you're staying in that relationship, really. Is it because it's part of a patterning and you're used to it? Or have you just kowtowed to others or what's happening, right? It's important too that you are brave enough to tell the truth, not only to others, but to yourself. It's really important. And the more you do this with yourself, the more natural it gets and the easier it gets so that you aren't, in essence, living a lie, if you will, right? So what happens is you develop, remember I said trust issues? You end up developing the ability to trust yourself and be on your own side so that you can count on yourself to care for yourself. I find it fascinating that the throat chakra, is between the heart and the head. And so sometimes when we're not really conditioned to express ourselves freely and honestly, we have to actually sit with ourselves for a while to understand what's going on in my heart and what's going on in my head and what has been conditioned, right? What have you been conditioned to believe that you in ways that you should act or speak or be? And maybe some of those old conditioning, whether they were self-preservation on your part or you were taught it as a child or taught it in school, maybe those need to be re-examined now that you're an adult. Sometimes people come into my workshop experience or in my healing sessions and they're really upset with the parents that they've had and how they parented them or foibles that they had. But I have to always remind them, Spirit's saying, right, but once you see it, then it becomes your responsibility. That's what it's called growing up. You have to address and take care of yourself now because for whatever reason your family couldn't see it or your parents couldn't see it, and you know they were able to see what they could see, but they might not have been able to see everything. So I think this feeling of being true to yourself, even when it means looking at parts of you that are uncomfortable, parts of you that you want to change. I mean, this even goes to self-talk, right? Even though that is also part of brow chakra and the mind, because sometimes those thoughts are just embedded in our behavior patterns. But to just notice how you speak to yourself, how you speak to others, how you speak your truth, all of these things are wrapped into the throat chakra in regards to speaking. You have to remember too that if you were really intrigued by my episode on manifesting, what you put out into the world is part of your manifestation. And so it's imperative that you learn the importance of speaking what's true, because otherwise you're manifesting what you don't want. As I mentioned before, the other half of communication, the throat chakra being communication and speaking your truth, also is listening. Because the ears are addressed with the throat chakra, it extends to the ears. And so it's important to remember. I love that saying, and I have to be reminded of it time and time again. We have one mouth and two ears for a reason, you know? It's really about listening so that you understand. And if you don't understand, or if something hits you odd, speak up, ask for more information. Don't just take whatever's coming out of the other person and let it upset you and then have it be miscommunication. It's really important about engaging for the sake of comprehension. And so this is an art practice in deep listening, really listening without distractions so that you might understand what they're trying to say and what their perspective is, and letting others articulate and, ask questions that are probing questions when it's appropriate so that you can understand their half actually of the conversation and communication. I think sometimes when we're caretakers or people pleasers, we don't always let people articulate their needs. We second guess or presuppose those needs. And then, we miss out on relationship. And sometimes we become so kind of codependent, if you will, where we're constantly at their beck and call energetically and emotionally and mentally as we're trying to second guess what they need or what they're trying to say. It's the importance of speaking up and asking them to be clearer and recognizing, that part of that whole mess, if you will, of interaction, of like codependency, and that can also reside in the throat chakra. I think you understand what I'm saying there, like manipulation in that when you're waiting for a certain time to approach them because maybe now's not a good time or whatever. And it's like, I would just notice those things, notice those areas, right, in your life if that strikes a chord where you're refraining from speaking when you really want to speak. Hey, I want to tell you about my book, Some Dogs Talk. It teaches animal communication among the pages of paranormal, non-creepy fiction. But the stories of animal communication are actually based on a lot of personal experiences that I went through. It is designed to help the reader navigate their own experiences of all the different ways that we can communicate, not just with animals and our furry friends, but with others. I think you'll enjoy it. Get your copy today. I think one of the greatest gifts that Spirit has come forward to say in regards to people kind of maintaining the energy that gets straightened out in an energy healing with the throat chakra is Spirit always encourages them to spend time with themselves, to really meditate or contemplate on what their truth is in their life. Big truth, small truth, interactive truth, what they want to be doing, who they want to be doing it with, what their relationships are like, what their communication skills are like, who empowers them to communicate, who might be stopping their communication or not embracing their communication, people that are holding them back or shutting them out or shutting them down. So I think it's really important to notice that if this has struck a chord with you or has got you, wait for it, choked up in any way, choked up, get it? That maybe it's time to go for a walk or sit and journal or ponder or contemplate where in your life you feel your communication skills have been, well, not skills, communication efforts have been thwarted, right? Where you're being gagged. Those are also other lifetime things that come through as being gagged. A lot of people come in still with a gag order. Can I tell you also that there's people that I have that have taken vows of silence in other incarnations and they're still holding that vow, right? So these are some things you might want to ponder or journal in your own time. Like, did I take on a vow of silence in another incarnation? Is it useful for me now? Where do I need to speak up in my life? Do you put yourself in situations or allow yourself to be gagged or quieted or not heard or shushed. Ugh, I hate this shush. Yeah. So definitely spend some time contemplating your own communication and ability to speak your truth and your ability to listen, right? Definitely ability to listen, very important when you're making connections. And ponder your trust issues, you know? It's a part of the throat chakra that is often brushed over, the trust issues being stored there. So maybe ponder and write out or walk out or contemplate out or, just ponder those things. Do you know while I was speaking that last bit, Spirit kept saying, say bound and gagged, say bound and gagged. And I kept thinking like business bounds or business binding or business or financial binding and stuff like that. And I was like, what are you even talking about? Because I literally saw like this person with their hands tied, right? Their hands tied and they were gagged. Their mouth was gagged. The good old fashioned, you see it in the movies, hands behind their back or hands in front of them. They're tied up and then also a big gag around their head through their mouth. But Spirit's like saying, no, it's also bound and gagged. So sometimes we're in, relationships, whether it's childhood experiences or marriages or friendships or business partners where we're not allowed or don't feel as if we're allowed to speak out and speak up. And so I am going to tell you that Spirit saying, where are you bound and gagged? Right. Also, like you just can't, you're stuck somewhere, bound, like you're bound to someone, right? Connected to someone that won't let you speak your truth, or that's at least how you feel. Or maybe you feel like I'll be threatened if I speak my truth, or I can't possibly, and so in those instances, I do encourage you to seek outward help to get out of situations that are harmful. Wow. I don't know who needs to know that, but Spirit's definitely coming through, Bless you. So, what supports a healthy throat chakra? Well, trust of yourself and trust of others. So, being in trusting relationships, sometimes that can go up and down, but the ability to have communication so that you can rebuild trust is important. Also, clean communication, clear communication, right? And also positive communication. That would be great. And following your dream, believe it or not, can help balance the throat chakra because, again, you're trusting in yourself. You're saying what you're going to do, saying what you want to do and be, speaking your truth. When there's great self-expression and self-expression of feelings, this builds personal growth and maturation, the growing up, like noticing where you want to be different or where maybe in your life things have fallen short and how you want it differently. That's honoring your truth and also practicing your clairaudience skills, your psychic hearing, paying attention to what you hear and the voices you hear in your head, and noticing also too where the disparaging thoughts might come from that you are playing out and living out, instead flipping those. And we're going to get more into that in regards to the brow chakra, but paying attention to the positive good hits that you get in regards to clairaudience and building, that helps to build positive balance in the throat chakra also. When I do healing work on myself or others, when I'm working on the throat chakra, I often use the colors associated with it. The color in the light spectrum is blue, and the note is D, 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 D. So aside from holding the D note to work and open the throat chakra, you could also do toning or singing or chanting. These also work to activate the vagus nerve, and that is always fabulous, working with the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. But definitely Om is important, but chanting and singing also, of course, would engage the throat chakra. The healing crystals and stones that I turn to when doing throat chakra work are lapis lazuli. I even wear the earrings sometimes. Sapphire, lilite, blue calcite, and turquoise. There were times in my life when I wore turquoise bracelets all of the time. The hand mudra that I use to bring energy to the throat chakra is the Buddhi mudra. It is where your thumb and your pinky finger connect and the 3 middle fingers are extended straight out. This is fabulous for running energy to the throat chakra. If you want to try the yoga postures, there's 3 that I always work with. One is Ustrasana, it's camel pose, and it's knees bent on the floor and bending back with your upper body so that throat is fully open, crown of head is down towards the floor, and the hands reach back to touch the ankles or heels of the feet. There is also Bhujanasana, which is cobra pose, where the lower body is flat down on the floor, toes extended, and the upper body is pressed up like a cobra, the throat chakra open. And then there's also baby bird feeding. It's a sitting pose that you can do where you sit in a chair, or a tall back chair, or a chair, or the bed. You can sit on a bed where your feet are firmly planted on the floor and your back is a little bit arched. Your arms are grasping the sides of the chair there, the base of the chair, and your head is up, neck open, head is up like a baby bird getting mother's food or father's food. Either of these 3 are fabulous for opening up the throat chakra. Of course, get medical professional doctor approval before you start into a yoga practice. There is a nice meditation that you could do. Get in a comfortable position where you won't be bothered by external noises and sounds claiming time for your attention. Instead, sit with yourself. Close your eyes and turn your attention inward. Maybe put your hands on your throat and ask internally, what's in here? What do you want to tell me? Give your throat chakra and the knowingness of your soul awareness, all aspects of your inner knowing. Give that your full awareness to guide you to the energy and the confidence and the knowing that is within your throat chakra. Ask yourself, what's happening here? What's going on here? What do you need? What do you need for healing or greater, resounding, balanced energy? And I invite you to listen. Listen deeply to what the throat chakra wants to tell you. Listen deeply to what your throat chakra wants to tell you. Maybe come out and journal it down or ponder. And then if it's asking for changes in your life, maybe you check in a few days and see how you're doing with implementing those changes. You can always tune in at any moment to your own inner knowing, to your own soul awareness, all the different ways that we receive information from our soul to ourself. Claircognizance, our knowing, ClairAudience, what we're hearing, clairsensation, what we're feeling. All of it, whether we're getting this knowing as a resounding, continual reminder that this area of your being wants special attention, deserves attention. As you're tuning in at any point, notice your ClairSentiment. Notice your clear emotional feelings. A lot of times when people put their hands at their throat chakra, or I do, there's a whole range of emotions that are stuck there, right? They've tried to bubble up from the heart, the knowing of the heart center. They've tried to come up out the throat chakra and the mouth as expression, right? But they get caught in the throat, whether it's rage or tears or all sorts of things. So pay attention to any emotional content that you might uncover, discover, or explore as you put your hands to your throat chakra. Also, if you have family members or friends or children, this is a great area to help them kind of nurture, especially if you have kids in your life. What are you feeling? What's coming up for you, right? Literally, what's coming up for you? What's coming to the surface? What do you need to express? Try to put words to those emotions or those feelings. That will help too to balance the throat chakra. I just pulled an angel card. It feels like this episode kind of is done, right? But I always give spirit like opportunity to say more, or where should it go? And I was like, I'm going to pull an angel card because I was compelled to, I was drawn to it, and pulled to it. And I pulled it and it was love. And I was like, wow, that's beautiful. It's really what, the throat chakra is right after the big chakra of the heart chakra, even though we stopped at the thymus of self-love. But it really is the best possible way of giving our self-love and expressing love is with the throat chakra. Speaking your truth, living your truth, doing what you say you want to do, sorting, giving yourself the attention of sorting, what is it that I want? What do I want to speak out into my world and into my reality? Of course, Spirit's reminding me in some religions, God spoke the world into existence. And we're reminded with all the bits out on manifesting now that we can often too speak our world into existence. And so I think I'm being directed by Spirit to end on that note. Thoughts are things, and words definitely are projected thoughts and things. So pay attention. Pay attention to your words. Let them be loving and kind, especially to yourself, but let them be honest and truthful, even if it means saying things that might be uncomfortable for you to express or others to hear. I know you got this. I totally know you got this. May we all have happy and balanced throat chakras. Hey, Constance Messmer here. I just want to do a shout out of big thanks to all the members. I am so grateful. And all the people dropping in and giving little donations here and there and super thanks and all that stuff. I really appreciate you. You members and you people contributing and subscribers are what helped me bring this content to everyone, really. They both contribute to the cost of production, and I am definitely grateful for that. This stuff is not cheap to put out. Oh my God. Oh my God. So every little bit helps, and I am filled with gratitude that you're stepping up. I am not necessarily a joiner, not usually, but there are environmental issues and other organizations that I do belong to and I contribute to because I like to see them persevere. And I'm hoping you feel the same about this work. I hope you put it into practice in your life. That's another way that you could spread this work and help change our world, which is what I think it ultimately does. As you know, I think if everyone tuned into their soul senses, the world would be a much better place. So when you subscribe, it's a big yes vote for the content, and it helps spread the work across the planet. So when you put the lessons into practice and subscribe and like and share, you help me help you carry the lesson beyond you and me. And I am just really grateful. Legally speaking, this podcast is presented solely for educational, spiritual, and entertainment purposes. It is not intended as a substitute for medical diagnosis, treatment, or the advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professional. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat a health problem or condition. Always check with your doctor. Thank you.